going to do all of the checking and waiting for people to slowly filter in.
Yeah.
And then tweet out so people know. You're gonna just watch me dance. Sometimes I feel like I
I'm
need like
sharing.
theme music. Okay, yes, we are.
We're all just dancing to the theme music in our head. It's fine.
Right?
Fine.
Okay. So we got the chat started.
Okay.
Hi to everybody in the chat. Hi to everybody who's watching right now. We are on our final Tell It Again live stream for the year, which is so
Yes.
weird to think about how fast but not fast this year has gone so far.
Right? Yeah.
But otherwise, this month we decided to read the Shrike and the Shadows. It's a dual author.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. Chantal and AJ, right?
Chantal Gadoury and A.M. Wright.
A.M. Okay. So this is basically a Hansel and Gretel retelling where we have Hans and Greta, who are two twins who live in this town that's being attacked by what some are assuming is a Shrike and others do not believe in. And so we have this clash of old world and new Christian beliefs, which seems to be the theme of things that are set in this time period in this part of the world. And
Very
Hans and
true.
Greta are orphans, and of course, things happen. This is moody, it is atmospheric, it's got all kinds of creepiness, and I'll let Shae start out with her thoughts. But first, I will warn everybody, we are going to have lots of spoilers in this. So if you haven't read it and you don't want to be spoiled, this isn't the live stream for you. But if you want to know things before you go in, or if you have read it, you're welcome. So go for it, Shae.
Okay, so I've read works by Chantal Gadoury before. She has several series that I have read and absolutely loved. So I was really looking forward to her take on Hansel and Gretel. She's done some other retellings I've really enjoyed, so I was very hopeful going into this book. It is definitely atmospheric. It is definitely that perfect vibe for like fall and spooky season. The vibe and the setting and the general concept of this novel were perfect. When it came to the execution, I had a lot of struggles. There was some character inconsistency that I think happened in part because we're dealing with an author pairing rather than a single author who can keep things as consistent and concise as they prefer. And the other thing is just parts of the plot didn't quite work for me. So let's dive into some of the things that didn't work for me. So let's start about talking about how Hans as a character was nothing but a dumpster fire. There's no nice way to put that. I'm really, really sorry. I love Chantal. I hope she's not watching this because I don't blame her. I don't really blame the other author. I just think them working together for this book didn't quite work. So Hans is like a chauvinistic pig who feels like his sister is a burden, but at the same time wants to be like super overprotective of her, so it just doesn't work. Like he's like, I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay here trapped in the house, but I'm gonna go sleep with whoever the heck I want. Like it just that is not what Hans is to me ever in any other retelling even. Like Hans's character did not work at all for me. Not anything. I didn't care what happened to Hans. And I'm supposed to care about what happens to Hans.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to well, okay, not necessarily. There are instances where you're not supposed to like truly like the main characters. But in this retelling, it's set up so that you're supposed to, because they're the heroes of the story and they have all these bad things happen to them. But somewhere along the line, I mean, Hans, very much so, he uses his sister as an excuse for just getting away with whatever he wants. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
Greta, who has this weird sense of naivety to her, where, and at the same time she's supposed to be like almost worldly, and it's a balance that doesn't work because she comes off kind of annoying a
Right.
lot of the time. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
you picked up on that, but I totally did. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, in
Like, basically, our characters were giving us whiplash, and I do think that's part of an author duo as opposed to a single author. Is I think each author wanted something out of the characters that the other didn't necessarily want, and so they wrote it how they wanted, and it didn't really work. It
yeah,
felt like two people writing a novel, and I think that was my ultimate struggle with this book.
well, in the whole Hansel and Gretel retelling, I mean, most of the time they're children. So when you're taking a fairy tale and reimagining it as young adult, which I don't think this book is young adult. It's that weird border between new adult and young
Young
adult.
adult and new adult, yeah.
Yeah, because it does have some very adult themes to it, especially towards the end.
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. We'll get to that in a minute.
yeah. So when you're trying to translate that, and part of me thinks a lot of this happened because we have this very dark atmosphere that was set up. So they were trying to make a grittier storytelling with some harder characters, but that then in turn started to hurt the storytelling in a way that just, I don't want to continue on in this series. I will leave it
I don't
at
either,
that.
sadly.
Even though, I mean, you can read this as a standalone if you choose to
Oh
leave it
yeah.
more open ended, but
Mm-hmm.
there is going to be more because you can tell where it left off that there's going to be more. I just,
Oh yeah.
it was hard.
I
It
don't
it
care
it just,
enough.
I
Yeah.
like grittier stories, but there is gritty and there is just over sexualizing to over sexualize. And then the way they
Yeah.
handled grief in this story, I that's part of the reason
I
I think they
struggled with
tried to
so
make these
hard.
characters that hard, is because you have Hans, who's dealing with the death of both of his parents by sleeping around. And then you have Greta, who goes into this very depressive state. But she's the one who ends up being labeled a monster because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just, even internally, when she's talking with some of the other characters, she's making a monster out of herself because of her lack of, like, at one point she just can't even get out of bed, and so a lot of her animals suffer for it, and then she starts to demonize herself because of that. And there's no one there to
Right.
correct her and say, "Hey, you just lost everything you knew. It's
Because
okay."
the only other person in her life is her skeezy brother who's running off and sleeping with anything wearing a skirt.
Right. So I just, yeah.
So, once they're actually like banished from the village because she's a witch and they're in the woods, they come across this person. His name's Bastion, I think?
A baron.
Baron. I knew it was a B. So, Baron seems to be this halfway decent human being. You know, he's there to help protect them, all these kinds of things. Well, he's married to the freaking Shrike, and then he goes and sleeps with freaking Gretel while Hans is dying in their cabin. Like, what the crap? Like, it was just a.
And I felt weird about that whole relationship in the first place between Baron and Greta, because Baron is obviously extremely older than Greta is. Greta at this point is what?
Yeah.
She's like 17 or 19, somewhere in between there.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, I like me an age gap romance, but this felt icky.
well, it's fine if there's a
And
build
there's
up
a
to it.
difference.
If there's a build
Right.
up to an age gap, I'm okay with it. But if
Mm-hmm.
it's this insta love, it feels very manipulative in a way that feels dirty.
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that they
Yeah.
tried
This
to
just
make,
felt icky. Like,
yeah, especially since they were trying to make Greta this very like sweet, innocent person. And then all of that happened. And it was just like,
yeah, it's like, it's almost like they thought about making her like manic pixie dream girl, but it didn't ever end up actually going there.
mm-mm.
And they left her in that naivete kind of area, and that's why that didn't exactly work. Because
Right.
if you truly made her like manic pixie dream girl, it all would have made way more sense. But just because they kept her in that naive realm, it didn't fit. It didn't work. It's like she needed more of that darkness, not just in like beating herself up kind of a way, but she needed to actually have darkness for
Mm-hmm.
the way this story went for it to actually work for her character.
Right.
So it was like this book just felt like a tug of war between two thoughts on how a Hansel and Gretel story should go. And so the characters, it felt like you were getting whiplash depending on who was writing the chapter, I think.
Yeah.
Because there were some chapters where I was fine with the characters, and then other chapters where I was like, what the heck's going on here?
Where did this
Like,
come
why are we
from?
doing this all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it it was like they were bipolar, and every other chapter they were acting differently. And
Yeah.
I wasn't handling it well.
I mean,
So I'm super, super sad because I love Chantel's work so much. And I was so looking forward to this, and now I'm all sad.
it's kind of the struggle that I think when you have dual authors like this, depending on how they write the story and how similar their styles and storytelling is, it can work. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere, the setting, it was
I think all of
perfect.
that was perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but there wasn't enough consistency within the characters for it to carry on its own
Right.
from there.
And it did have this very it had a build up to it that I think was appropriate for this kind of horrific story that they were trying to go for. So that kind of feeling was there. I think you're right. It breaks down because of the characters. If there was a little bit more consistency, if there had been some more editing, if there had been more thought process onto why we are building it up this way, and maybe there was, but maybe they just needed some beta readers to go through and tell them some things. I don't know. This could have been really,
I
really
don't know
good.
either.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I say, the concept and the setting were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the execution of the characters is this book's ultimate failing.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
And I hate so much for saying that because I love this author. And I hate when there's a book that an author sometimes when they pair with another author, like it loses what makes them amazing.
Right.
And I think this is a case of that, and it makes me really sad.
Yep. And it's not like a older version of Hansel and Gretel can't be done because we've read one before and
Right.
we've
We could.
enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, we definitely have.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So there's just we read it, we
See,
went through
I
with it.
almost think like they shouldn't have left. We shouldn't have. They should have made Gretel more motherly, like overall, rather than naive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this would have worked a lot better. It's that leaving her naive made her character not work.
Right.
And Hans was just a dumpster fire. I'm sorry. There's
Right.
no other way around that. I understand the dude is grieving, but he
There,
doesn't have to be a dumpster fire on top of grieving. Like,
yeah. Well, there has to be a point in which he has
it's
to
one
start
thing if,
recognizing things.
yeah,
But I mean, the Shrike ended up using that against him, which I guess is kind of like his candy house. And that's how she pulled him in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think since there is going to be multiple books in this series, if we had pulled out the romance a little longer, if we had built that up a little bit
Oh, yeah.
more, if it hadn't been
See,
a
for me, it would
sudden...
make sense, like, if they had, like, crossed that line and had sex, like, after Hans had been captured and they did it as, like, comfort to one another, that would have been, like, a lot easier for me to, like, accept and understand how they got to that point and maybe even, like, feel a little sympathy or whatever for them. But when he's very clearly, like, in the cabin, sick, not doing well, you can't just say, let's go down the river and end up having sex. Like, that's just that's not okay.
No. No. So we do have...
No, big no.
We do have...
So the
Yeah.
the retelling, the older version that we liked, it's called Sweetly. It's by Jackson Pierce. We've actually been talking about maybe doing that entire series because it's a 4-book series next year for the book club. So, like, it's a discussion we're potentially having because we loved rereading the Lunar Chronicles this year. So we might do that because that's another series that we've read together. So we might reread that for next year. So there's a good chance, at the very least, I do think we'll bring that book in next year.
Oh, for sure.
Because I really enjoyed that particular one from the series.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to go back to some of those sometimes because there's something just...
Oh, yeah. Retellings, there's always a rereadability to a retelling.
Because it has that nostalgia and that, like, childhood innocent but coming of ageness to it that I always come back to. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So yeah, we don't really have an announcement for next month, obviously, because we're taking the next 2 months off. We like to take the holidays off so that we can focus on family and all of our other projects that we both tend to work on during the holiday season. April has a lot of photography projects that she does. I have a lot of channel projects that I do during the holidays. So we won't be doing book club for the next 2 months, but we will be coming back in January. The book club isn't going anywhere. We inadvertently took these 2 months off last year, but it worked really well for both of us to do so. So we decided to do that again this year and let you guys kind of take that time off. And that also gives us a chance to research retellings we want to bring to you, things like that. Gives us a chance to brainstorm for next year. And so that's how we operate this book club. So you get the holidays off. We'll see you again in January. So yeah, I think book club wise, that's all the announcements we've got. So the next live show will be the last Sunday in January.
Yeah. Whenever, I think it's... Let me look, just in case anybody's interested. Gotta find it first. So January 24th is...
There you go.
Is the last Sunday of January in 2021. Of course, if you guys aren't subscribed to Shae,
pray that 2021 will not be the dumpster fire that 2021 was.
It's gonna get better. And if you aren't subscribed to Shae, yes, go subscribe to Shae. Both of us always are fairly, like, active on Twitter announcing when these things are gonna be and what we're reading. And
once we decide our January book, which I'm pretty sure as long as the release date lines up, it'll be A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer, which is the 3rd book in that series. I forget the name of the actual series. Is it the Cursebreaker series? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Cursebreaker.
I think it's the Cursebreaker series, but it's the final book in that series. So that'll most likely be our January read as long as the release date
stays
lines up with that to work.
Yeah.
If not, then that will be our February choice. So we'll do something else in January. I don't know when in January it's coming out. I guess I could look that up real fast while we're chatting.
Once upon a time, I knew.
let's see. According to Amazon, it's January 26th.
So
So that would be our
February.
February read.
It will be February, which I think
It
makes
will be
sense.
February officially. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I am okay with that. And then, so we'll end up picking something really fun for January, we promise.
Yeah, I
We'll
mean,
choose
we
some
might.
sort of standalone.
I think next year we should also start bringing in some manga and some graphic novels. If we can,
Woo!
yeah, if we can find retellings in those spaces, I think that would be a nice, well roundedness to this.
There are definitely some. So we could explore maybe like 3 volumes of a series or
Mm-hmm.
something and go from there.
I think that
So
would
we're
be
not
fun.
jumping into that Alice in the Country of Whatever series because I would want to deep dive all of it, and so no, like
Yeah, it's a
I can't
mess.
make that financial commitment.
Yeah, it's a mess. Other
So
than
there
that,
are other retelling series that we can definitely look into.
yeah, because you every once in a while you mention a couple to me, so I think we can do that. We should do
Which
that.
one?
That should be the thing.
Ooh, yes. Like there's a series that's one of my all-time favorites that is a combination of Richard III and Henry VI from Shakespeare, and it's actually based on the War of the Roses, and I would love to do the first 3 volumes of that for the book club
Yeah,
sometime.
and I figured
Like
that might be the first one because that's the
because
one
it's
you keep
so good.
mentioning. So, other than
Yes,
that, I
definitely.
don't think we have anything more that we're truly passionate about or need to announce to you
Yeah, when it came
guys.
to this book, sadly, we, yeah, we wish the book were better. We're very sorry.
Yeah. The part of me is very glad that I got this one from the library and I didn't
Yes,
purchase this
and
one.
that you didn't buy the physical copy like I did.
Yeah. Uh, but other than that, go subscribe to Shae. Um, we both like to post lots of videos about books and manga and graphic novels, so feel free to check both of us out. We've
And
got lots
April
of
has her
projects.
coloring streams, obviously, if you came from my channel.
Uh huh. We've got lots of projects coming down the line that you're not going to want to miss. But otherwise, we will
Sure.
see you guys all again in 2021. So, heart you beautiful faces. Bye.
Bye.